I will now take you through the process of creating a test. I'll not deep dive into any of the specific functions at this point, but rather come back to them later on. I begin with signing in as a teacher, and I see my exam list. This is where all the tests and exams that I've created are listed, and they are categorized in folders that I have created and arranged. If I would like to create a new exam, I click this icon, New Exam. And the first thing I am prompted to do is to choose a name for my new exam. In my case, I'm going to create a new English exam called A Letter to Connect. The next thing I do is to create the exam contents. In some cases, you may want to keep the questions outside the digital tool, for example on a piece of paper that is handed out to the students when it's time to start the exam. In those cases, you choose this alternative, no digital exam questions. But in most cases, you would want to provide the questions digitally within Exam.net. One way of doing that is to enter your exam questions directly into the editor here, writing them, or by copying pasting from a separate Word file or similar. Another option is to upload a PDF file, and that would be my choice in this example. I simply click here, use a PDF file, and attach the file with the test that I want to use. This is a test, an essay called A Letter to Connect. In this next section, I am prompted to set what information the students have to provide when they eventually get to take the exam. There are no students' accounts on Exam.net, so the students never have to register an account or remember their password. Instead, which we will see later on, the teacher hands out a code called an exam key for the students to use in order to start the exam. The students enter the exam key, and after that their first and last name, if that was what I chose. So, this is the part where I choose what student information needs to be provided, and this is also where I choose whether or not the exam is to be marked afterwards with the students' names anonymized. That is, if I, the teacher, am not supposed to know whose exam I'm marking, but I will come back to that. So I choose not to anonymize the names at this point. This next section, Student Workspace, is about what tools the students should have access to when taking the test. When starting the exam, the students will enter into a secure mode, blocking them from accessing anything on their devices other than the tools I enable here. Any tools that I enable become accessible for the whole group of students, but you may enable or disable tools on an individual level as well. We will see that later on. Here, I can choose to activate spell check, maybe English dictionary, and speech synthesis. You can also attach additional documents. An example could be that the students are given the task to write a commentary. You may want to attach a file with the text that they are going to work on. It is also possible to attach sound files in this next part of the Student Workspace options. A range of mathematics tools are available in the secure mode. Calculator, GeoGebra, Desmos, for example. Since my exam is an English test, I'll just leave all the mathematics tools disabled. The last part of my exam settings is about the security level of the exam. Basically, there are two levels of security for an exam. There is a lower level and a higher one. If you're using Exam.net for the first time with your students and you don't want to go through installing software in advance, this is the applicable option. Allow any browser. When the student starts the exam, he or she will enter a full screen mode, and if the student exits the full screen, that is, leaves the exam area without submitting or closing the exam, perhaps to Google something, the teacher will be informed. And here is where you choose what's supposed to happen then. You can choose to block the student from the exam and make him or her provide an explanation on why he or she left the full screen mode. This is the lower security level. Using the other option, the higher security level, the student will enter a full screen mode, but the difference is that the student cannot exit this full screen unless he or she submits the exam. To use the high security mode, you have to install a software. Which one depends on what device the student is using. The installation is quick and easy, but it is still an installation. Therefore, we recommend you to start with the security option called Allow Any Browser, just to get to know the tool, and then move on to trying out the high security mode and see that it's not that complicated. Now, for the sake of this demo, I will use the Allow Any Browser mode with no cheat prevention at all. And I save my changes, and my exam has been created.